Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's session, Getting Started with Listings. You may have been joining us for the past few webinars. Some of you may be new. I will just recap as usual before we get started. You are muted for this webinar. Me and Martina have got a lot of content that we want to get through today with you, but you can, of course, submit questions to us using the panel at the bottom of your screen and finding the little box with the little question mark in it, and you can submit us their questions and we can monitor those as well. This session is recorded and the link should be sent to you tomorrow via email exactly 24 hours after this session ends. So should you want to watch the recording again at your own time, you can, of course, do that. So welcome and thank you for joining us again for the Platform Basics webinar series. And of course, thank you for taking the time out of your day to be with us today. So I will just introduce myself quickly, potentially for those of you that are joining us for the first time. So my name is Ashley. I am based in Berlin, been at Yext for 6.5 years, and I lead our training and concierge services team here at Yext. What is my role? Basically just to ensure that you, our customers, are enabled, set up for success on the Yext tool. You have all the materials that you need to basically use Yext successfully for your business. And of course, that we're able to respond to any typical questions that may come up so that you're also, of course, seeing value as well from the tool. Martina, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Hi, everyone. My name is Martina. I'm originally Italian and I'm based in London. I'm part of the training and the education team. So my role is all about creating content like a webinar, training session, and the content material for all our clients around the world in different languages. And I'm working closely with Ashley to basically provide you all the support you need and to get the most out of Yext.
Awesome. Thanks, Martina. So as usual, we always have 3 objectives for our training sessions. So these are the 3 objectives that you are going to take away from today's session. So firstly, you will be able to describe how Yext interacts with publishers via listings. So it'll explain what listings are and how the platform, how the Yext tool connects with different publishers to basically store all of your brand's information and keep it up to date. Second, we'll go through the 4 steps of the listings sync process, and you'll also understand the 2 integration types that Yext has to our publisher partners. And finally, we'll also go through how you can use the Yext tool to identify and manage potential duplicate listings for your, stores or your restaurants or your hotels. Got lots of industries joining us today, so we'll give you some tips and tricks and best practices there on what you can do to manage those. Of course, as usual, we'll leave some questions at the end, or some time, sorry, for some questions at the end. But of course, you can always submit questions to us throughout the duration of the session. And I see Martina's already on the slide. So as usual, we want to get to know our audience a little bit better. Of course, we can't speak to every single one of you, but we would love to know, have you already used the Yext listing solution? So this time, hopefully I'm not going to select the wrong poll today. No, I have it. You should see a question pop up on your screen. We would love to know, have you already used the Yext listing solution? Have you logged in and played around with the Yext listings tool already? Have you viewed any of the publishers or anything at all, just to give us a better idea of our audience today and your level of knowledge? Fantastic. Okay, I can see a few of you have voted. So I'm going to close this and share the results. So all of you have said no. Okay, not a problem. We're going to start right with the basics, and then I'm going to hand over to Martina, as usual, to do a demo of the Yext listings tool. So thank you for joining. So as a recap, just a very quick recap for those of you that may not have joined previous sessions, but basically the Yext tool is here to improve and maintain your digital presence for your brand across multiple digital channels. So you're able to collect information directly within Yext, within the knowledge graph. You can organize it, filling out as much information as possible related to keywords, obviously very, very important for search. And then you're able to deliver that tailored, personalized information on your brand to potential consumers. Okay. If we move on, Martina, to the next slide, please. Just as a quick refresher as well for the knowledge graph, yeah, before we move on to listings today. So the knowledge graph is the essential kind of brain, the central brain of Yext that you need to fill out. It's basically a database that stores all of your brand information, whether you're a retail customer, retail brand, sorry, or whether you're a hospitality brand or a restaurant brand. The more information you fill out in the knowledge graph, the better. This is how search engines are able to source and then display and surface your brand in those types of searches, okay? So once that information is in the knowledge graph, it will then be distributed and synced to our, what we call our publisher networks, okay? And we'll get into that in right now. Thanks, Martina. Thank you for that. So here, basically, you can see on the right-hand side a list of all of the different publisher partners we have. There's probably some big, big logos there that you probably already recognize, okay? One thing as well, just to note before we move on, it is extremely important that you check the status of your specific listings within Yext. It allows you to do that, okay? And we will show you during the live demo where you can see the synced status, okay, of those specific listings. Now, all of those sites that you see on the right-hand side, they're third-party directory sites. They're our partners, yeah? We work with them directly. The term that you will see in the platform and what we're going to use now going forward is the word publisher, okay? Whenever you hear the word publisher, we are referring to those third-party sites, okay? So before we continue, okay, the Yext listing solution is basically built, okay, so that you only need one centralized account for your brand, okay? So you don't need to have a separate account with all these different publishers that can source and surface your brand's information. You use Yext, okay, to update all of those fields, and then the system, the Yext tool, the software knows and distributes that information out, okay? Basically to ensure that all the information is accurate, consistent, and always up to date. So before we move on, first knowledge check as well for today. I'm just gonna bring up the question here. So first knowledge check, we love to do these little knowledge checks. What do listings, in Yext represent? Are they paid ads on Google? Are they entity profiles visible on publishers? Or are they internal only company data? Okay. First knowledge check for today regarding Yext listings. Can see a lot of you have voted. Thank you so much, everyone. So I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results with you. So yes, the correct answer, you've got it. They are entity profiles, okay, visible on those publishers. Yeah. So an entity profile could be a store. If you're in the retail business, it could be a restaurant, it could be a hotel, it could be a bank. Okay. Those are what we are referring to here as an entity profile. Cool. Okay, so let's move on. So you've learned the word publisher. You've also heard the word listing, okay? Just to clarify the difference here. So you can see here on the screen, there are 3 examples of listings and 3 examples of publishers, okay? So these here that you see are the Yext listings for the headquarters, our HQ in New York. So there's 3 big logos on here that you probably recognize straight away: Google, Bing, and Apple. Those are examples of publishers. The then specific profile, yeah, the entity profile of the Yext headquarters is what we call a listing. Okay, so you can see on the far left, that is the Google listing for the Yext headquarters. You obviously then see the Bing listing for the same headquarters, and then you see, of course, the Apple listing. So one entity, one store, can have multiple listings across different publishers. But ideally, obviously, there's one listing per publisher, one accurate listing per publisher. Thanks, Martina. So when we think about listings nowadays, I mean, I'm probably probably some of you here remember the Yellow Pages, right? The Yellow Pages was this huge, book, paper book that we'd have to search through when we were looking for a certain business. Yellow Pages isn't printed anymore, right? We all have smartphones nowadays, pretty much. We all have computers. Everything is digitalized. Yeah, we've got voice assistants like Alexa. We've also now got AI, which is a huge thing. Okay, so your brand and your business isn't just a name and a business category and a phone number and an address in the Yellow Pages. Nowadays, it is way more than that. Okay, you can see here at the top, name, address, and phone number is what we call MAP. That is the core business information. Your locations need to have at least a name and address phone number online. However, you can also build on that MAP now directly via the Yext knowledge graph. So if you look at the middle, we've got the rich attributes section. You can add a description. You can add your logo. Okay, you can add videos. You can add payment options, products and services. You can read all of those. The list goes on. These are all keywords that potential consumers and customers of your brand are going to search for potentially on their phone, or they'll ask AI, or they'll look on social media. We can always go down as well, even further to specific industry data. So if we look at the first one, order and reservation URL, that could be for a hotel or a restaurant, right? They need to reserve a table at your restaurant. How can they do that if the link is not available online? Yeah. Um, Also the menu. Yeah. There was an example that I gave on the knowledge graph, but I'm vegetarian. Okay. And if I'm looking for a restaurant, I always look for a restaurant with vegetarian options. If I can't see any vegetarian options online on the menu, probably not going to go there. Yeah. We've also got things, potentially for hotels like conferences. Do you allow conference centers? Yeah, events, pools, breakfast, and things. So there's all of this data here is available directly in the knowledge graph and should be filled out as much as possible. So we have a question here next. So we went to ChatGPT, right? And we asked ChatGPT, as I'm sure a lot of people are doing nowadays, yeah, what or how many business listings is the average person exposed to per day? So there's a statement here. According to ChatGPT, the average person is exposed to online business listings per day. What do you think? So I'm going to launch poll number 3, if you give me a second. Perfect. So there's 3 options that you should see on your screen. What's the average number of business listings a person is exposed to per day? What do you think? Is it 1 to 9, 10 to 19, or 20 to 50? What do you think? According to ChatGPT. Oh, this is really interesting how everyone's voting. I love this. Awesome. Okay, thanks everyone. So let's have a look. So 50% of you, the biggest chunk of you said 1 to 9, 25% of you said 10 to 19, and 25% of you said 20 to 50. It's actually 20 to 50 business listings a day, yeah, on average. It's actually a lot, yeah. Listings can be, on your smartphone, they can be on the desktop, okay. We're exposed to 20 to 50 listings on average per day. Super, super important that our listings for our certain brand, okay, in order to attract customers or potential consumers, are filled out, they look attractive, right? They look trustworthy with accurate information. So what are the benefits then of Yext listing? So we've got 4 benefits here for you. So the first one is better customer experience, okay? Why is that then? So there are so many publisher partners that we have, as you've seen on previous slides, yeah? The fact that your brand is listed on those sites and the information from Yext is synced directly to that means that the information is consistent. Tell you a little story here, yeah? The idea of Yext came about when our founder, he's from New York, and he wanted to order a pizza, okay? And he went on Google, and on Google, the pizza restaurant was displayed as closed. It's like, oh, okay, we can't order a pizza. A friend of his, well, I've looked on Facebook and the pizza store's labeled as open. That's where the idea of Yext came from. All right, two separate publishers, yeah, two separate listings with conflicting information. Not ideal, very damaging for a brand. So first of all, better customer experience will lead to then better customer engagement. If that information is consistent across multiple publishers, okay, customers are going to have more trust in your brand. Okay, they're going to know, oh, the pizza place is open. Okay, what's the delivery options? What options do they have? What are the menu items? Yeah. This will then in turn help to improve discoverability and overall SEO performance. Google specifically, yeah, these large publishers, Google, Bing, etc., they're what we call data aggregators. They have crawlers that are constantly crawling the web and they're looking constantly for information. We can't stop them from doing that. Okay, that's no one can stop them. It's just a feature of Google. They are continuously scanning all of the different other publishers, the website, all of these different places to find information. AI is also now exactly the same. Perplexity, ChatGPT, they're scanning all of these different places and sources to try and find information. If the information is consistent across all those places, bam, that's going to improve your ranking in Google. Okay. And lastly, you can use Yext to see the performance in search. And myself and Martina will be running a webinar next week on analytics. So really encourage you also to join that so you can learn how to track your own SEO performance for your brand. So I did mention this earlier. I did briefly mention this, but when it comes to the Yext listing solution, it is extremely important to monitor the listings status. Okay. There are 4 statuses between Yext and the publisher in question. Okay. Now let's start on the left. Synced. Okay. Probably very self-explanatory. Synced means there's a connection between Yext and there's a connection between that specific publisher, for example, Google. Okay. The information from Yext is syncing to it. Everything's working. Okay. Not synced means, okay, we've tried to establish a connection, but there is an error. Okay, there's some kind of error. Don't want to go into too much detail right now. Martina will give you some examples in the demo, but it is extremely important that you check for those not synced listings as well. Processing means we're working on establishing a connection between Yext and that specific publisher. Shouldn't take longer than a few days. If you see something there for over a week that's in processing, this is a use case to reach out to our support team so that they can help you. And the last status is opted out. That means that, okay, the entity in Yext has a listings license assigned. Okay, it has the ability for us to opt in and establish a connection, but there's no connection right now between Yext and that specific publisher listing. Could be multiple reasons why we're not going to go down that route right now. Martina will go through some examples again during the demo. So also wanted to let you know that there are 2 ways that Yext connects with our publisher partners, okay, or integrates with our publisher partners. So the first one on the left-hand side is called dual sync or 2-way. What that means is Yext will send the data to the publisher and the publisher will send us a response back, okay? There's a 2-way connection, okay? The biggest advantage here is speed and accuracy. Whenever you make a change in the knowledge graph, like for example, updating the opening hours or services or something, they will then be pushed to that publisher. And then we will get a response back. Okay, so you'll be able to see, for example, as I just mentioned, the status, any publisher suggested edits, also analytics data and review data, so you can track performance. So some examples of those are Google, Facebook, Apple, etc. The second way is submission. This is one way, okay? So the difference here is that Yext still sends the data for your brand from the knowledge graph to that specific publisher, but the partner publisher or the publisher partner, sorry, doesn't send anything back to us. So there isn't any analytics data that we can pull from that, okay? Now you're probably wondering, okay, well, actually, why is that? It's simply the agreement we have with the publisher, okay? that publisher takes the data from Yext as a very high confidence trusted source, but due to the agreement we have, we're not going to send, they're not going to send any data back or give us any analytics or anything for that. Okay. So if we look here on the next slide, here's a chart, okay? So there are different features and some limitations of the listing sync process depending on the type of integration. So both integration types allow you to sync your entities to the publisher, okay? So the knowledge graph data goes straight to the publisher, either via API or via feed, okay? But for those one-way publishers, the specific status will simply be submitted, okay? There won't be any other status. It's submitted, it's in green, everything's working, there's nothing more that needs to be done, okay? So you can see here, there are some examples of feed publishers here at the bottom. So that's Amazon Alexa, TikTok, Snapchat, Foursquare. Now, one thing I will say as well is we are always continuously looking for new publisher partners, but also looking to continuously build on the relationship we have with certain publishers. So it could be, I don't want to promise anything, but maybe a one-way publisher might become a dual sync publisher one day. Okay. So just be aware there of the limitations of the feed publisher. Now, moving on to the sync process then here. I want to walk you through how the process works, okay? So if you move on to the next slide, please, Martina. For the publisher integration to work, okay, you can see these 4 steps here. Authenticate, search and match, initial sync, and ongoing sync. This is how we create business listings for your brand on publishers, like Google, Facebook, Bing, etc. Okay. We'll also show you how you can manage your listings, handle duplicates, etc., and ensure everything is accurate. So with the 4 main steps then, okay, the first one is the authenticate process. And this is needed for these 4 publisher partners only, okay? There's Google. People know it as Google My Business. It's rebranded to Google Business Profile. There's Facebook, there's Apple, and there's Trustpilot, okay? The reason why there's a bit of extra setup here for these publishers is because they have their own portal, let's say, okay? Google specifically, if you have a Google Business Profile account, you will be aware that there's ways to store your Google listings in that profile or in that account. And it's via folders or what we call location groups. Facebook, okay, is about brand page. Is there a brand page for your brand and then a location subset structure, okay? There's also Facebook Business Manager that would also need to be connected to Yext. For Apple, similar to Google as well, we've got Apple Business Connect. You'd need an account with Apple Business Connect. We really, really recommend that. And then again, there's different folders per brand and per country as well. And the same is also said for Trustpilot if you're using Trustpilot to monitor customer reviews, okay? So this authenticate process is essential. You go to Yext, account settings, linked accounts, and this is where you link those 4 accounts. We're unable to sync any listings to these 4 publishers or pull reviews from Trustpilot if these are not linked within the specific linked account section. Once we have access, or once you've linked those accounts, okay, Yext will basically scan your account to find potential matches of listings. So Yext checks every location in your account by searching for the NAP, the name, the address, and the phone number. And it will also look for the coordinates of the pin, of the map marker, to see if they're similar. What Yext will do is it will then match to those locations where there are existing listings, for example, on Google and other publishers. And if Yext finds a match, that's when the connection is then activated, okay? If it doesn't find a match, depending on the settings that are in your specific account, okay, it may create a new listing automatically. If that's a new business or you haven't got a listing for that, fantastic. But that can also potentially lead to a duplicate listing being created, which we'll get into later. Okay. It is extremely important, okay, if you already have your listings in Google, to make sure that the data in the Yext knowledge graph matches, particularly on name, address, phone number, because that's how the matching process works. Once we have the proper permissions after the match and scan phase, Yext then performs an initial sync of your data with all of the supported publishers, included also what we call the extended network, those long tail publishers, okay? And then once that has been done, okay, the information is then automatically synced from the knowledge graph to all of those connected publishers where there is a synced connection. So once you've updated the information in Yext and you've clicked on save, that information is then automatically pushed out to those listings, okay? So to summarize, we authenticate by getting access to your business profile accounts via the linked account section. We do a search and match on name, address, phone number. We then sync the information from the knowledge graph, and then there's the ongoing sync as well. So Martina, I see you're raring to go with the demo, so I'm going to hand it over to you now so you can show everyone the listings tab.
Thank you so much, Ashley. So every time you log into your platform, this is the home page you will see. Of course, because this is an account we created for this specific webinar, we wanted you to be aware that, of course, the data here are different compared to the one you have in your dashboard. And what you have on the left-hand side, it's all the solution available in the Yext account, but be aware as well that depending on the one you have purchases, it might be different. In our case, we have all of them, of course. So clicking on listing, you might remember that listing are all the information related to your brand and that are online, available on different publisher. So publisher we mentioned, they are all the digital touch points where like Google, Facebook, Alexa, and many others that provide and deliver this information. They display the information related to your locations. So first of all, clicking on the All Listing tab, here it's where you have a general overview of all the listing. You have on the top some hero number. So you have the total listing, so the total number of listing for your specific brand. And you have the statuses. You remember Ashley mentioned previously, you have four possibilities. First one is sync, which it means then that there's a connection between a specific location listing and the publisher. So it's active and working. Not sync, it means that we try to establish a connection, but something went wrong and there are a few reasons why. You can check, and I'll show you later how to check and how to fix the issue. Processing, it means that it is in progress, so it will be soon synced. It might take a bit of a time, and this will change as well depending on the publisher. So no worries if it's taking a bit of time, but if it's taking too long, we highly recommend to contact our support center, of course. And opted out means that there's no active connection between a specific location listing and a publisher. And this, in many cases, the reason why is that the publisher does not really support your business category. So does not really accept your listing from your specific industry. And taking an example, if you are working in the retail industry, for example, TripAdvisor is one of the Yext partners, but primarily TripAdvisor supports listing for the hospitality sector and fields. So if you are working in the retail industry, it's very likely that, of course, TripAdvisor will remain opted out, and you will see that opted out and not as synced. Before we move on, I will need your help, Ash, to launch our knowledge check.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
You will see very soon the quiz, and the question is, what's the main advantage of dual sync integration compared to one-way integration? And we have three options. They're faster but less accurate. They take data via API or feeds. They allow two-way data sharing with publishers. So remember, we have either dual sync integration or one-way integration. What's the main advantage of dual sync integration? So they're faster but less accurate. They take data via API, or they allow two-way data sharing with publishers.
Everyone got it right. Well done.
Well done, everyone.
Yep.
It's correct. So we are able to receive information from publishers as well.
Can I just mention something here, Martina, very quickly, just
Sure, sure.
through my experience of working with listings now for a few years, but one of the very common questions we get from my customers is they'll update something in the knowledge graph, or you'll update something in the knowledge graph, and then you'll go to like Google, for example, and you'll look and you'll be like, well, hang on, I've updated this in Yext, but I don't see it reflecting on the listing. Please check the listing status. Yeah, that's why it's there. There is this step that you can do before you go, obviously, to the listing. And obviously, if there's a processing or opted out or not synced, then Yext is not able to update that information on the live listing.
True, and also, I mean, we will mention later, but also it's very important we are sure that there's a license assigned for each location, but we will see later. So very, very important. These are two tips that we want to share with you every time. Check the status and the license, and you will be able to see if there's an issue or not. Moving on then, if we go down, always in the list or listing tab, you see a list of entities with the publisher and the status. You can filter down to narrow your search if you want to look for more deeper information. So if you click on the drop down menu, you can decide to search depending on the entity type. So entity, remember, it's a primary object in the knowledge graph, so where we collect, organize the data. So, and we divided entities in entity types, and you have a list here if you want to select some of those one. You can select depending on the publisher. So if you want, for example, to only check the Apple listings, you can check the status as well. So as we mentioned, always check if you have non-synced or opted out listing, the issue type, and also you have the chance to create advanced filter. So let's take a concrete example. I want to check some listing depending on a country, and I select, I'm in the United Kingdom, so United Kingdom, and I click on apply filter. You'll see the information are different. You see the euro number change. You have less listing here, and they are only related to the United Kingdom one. Every time you scroll down and you see the entity, what you can do as well, you can click on the entity specifically, and this will redirect you into the knowledge graph. And the knowledge graph is really the central database. Imagine it really as a brain that works as a brain where you collect your data, you change everything in here, and only whenever you change the information here, then it's possible to connect the information and sync the information with our publisher. So always remember to apply a new change, go in the knowledge graph in the specific entity, and then it's here where you can make any change and it will be reflected in the publishers. I wanted to show you then how you can check the listing status and essentially how to see any potential issues that cause a non-synced status. So you select on the filter, you select the non-synced one. So in this case, always remember, in this case, I'm specifically in the United Kingdom one because I used an advanced filter. If I want to clear the filter, very simple, you click on clear, you apply, and then you see I'm back again in more listing and specifically the non-synced one. In the listing status, you have a little warning message, a little warning icon that show you how many issues are there. And clicking on specifically this message, you can see what's the issue and what's the solution. And this is really helpful because it provides you with a concrete reason, a concrete solution, sometimes also help article. If, of course, you don't find the right solution, you are unable to fix the issue, you can always contact our support team at help at yext.com. So we are able, of course, to to help you. You see some information here, and you have a section related to the field accuracy. When there's a synced connection here, you can see which fields are connected to a publisher, and I'll show you later how we can configure it. So moving on to the publisher tab. So while the listing tab mainly show the listing with the publisher as well, this tab provides you with a list of publisher available for you in Yext. Yext has many different partners, and we have also geolocalized publishers that operates in specific countries. So you will have some of the most used search engine system like Google, Apple, Bing, and the other you see scrolling down. And you will have also geolocalized and more specialized publisher here. At the top, you have some hero number. As always, you have the number of publisher available for you, the total listing, and the statuses. You remember we have 4 options. You can filter if you want to check, for example, I want to see all the on Apple. Let's select Apple. I can select Apple. I click the apply button, and I'll see only related to Apple how many listing are available and the general statuses. Okay, I can once again reset to all, apply, and I will have again my list. Clicking on the publisher, and let's take Google, you have a general overview. There's always some number related to the status, to the entities you see here scrolling down. And then you have a section related to configuration. So clicking here it's where you see all the fields connected to the publisher. And to make it very clear and easy, fields are the information you want to provide related to a listing. So we showed previously the headquarters in New York, the Yext headquarters. Some fields provided to Google are the address, the opening hours, there's a map marker, there's the name of the company, right? So these are fields which are pieces of information. And you can select here, you see a little icon. If you click here, you can change the setting and decide if you want or not this information to be synced to the publisher. So very simple, you go in configuration, you see the list here, and then you eventually you can change the settings clicking on the icon. And scrolling down, you have a dedicated section to brand settings. This is specifically for Google. This is where you should list all of the location groups you have in your Google Business Profile account, and they must be shared with us to sync your listing to GBP, right? So we highly recommend to take some time here to fill the data. Another thing I wanted to mention is we mentioned earlier, every time check the status of the listing, but also check the status of the license. What does that mean? Every time you start in Yext, you start from the knowledge graph. We mentioned the knowledge graph. It's a data center where you fill the information. We took an example earlier. This is a location, Captain Parker's, and if you scroll down a bit, you see there's a dedicated section to licenses. So licenses is a package that you provide to this specific entity to be connected to the listing solution. So for us to be able to provide and connect with publisher, we need each entity to be connected with this license from knowledge graph to listing. So really important to check here. And if you don't see the license applied, you just click on assign more license, and then you provide the right one. We have a knowledge check, so I need your help, Ash. The quiz we have for you is thank you. Which of the following fields is not required to sync a location entity on listing? So remember, there are a few information that are necessary. It could be the name, phone number, entity ID, menu URL. There are one between these 4 that it's not require, which is the right one. I think we can share the results and the correct answer. Well done, everyone. You all responded correctly. It's the menu URL. It's correct. When you create an entity and when you select then the license, it's very important, and you provide the information, the more important one, which are name. Let's scroll here, like the name, the category. It's different if you are working in the food and services, or if you are in the retail industry. It's very important to provide this information to the system. And same, it's very important to know which is the right address, right? A phone number where you can be contacted, and a URL as well. You can fill as much information as possible. Very important. And you can see also a little red dot. This means that it's a mandatory field. So this information, to be populated and to exist, it needs at least this information in the knowledge graph. And the last one, the last thing I wanted to call out is the duplicate suppression tab. I'm not able to go deeper because this is a training account, so we don't have duplicates in this case. But just so you know, and Ashley will show you later some screenshot about how to visualize this specific tab. But basically, this tab allow you to do a scan. You can click on run a scan. The system will run the scan for you and check if there are potential duplicates, so duplicates of the same location listing. And you will have the possibility to either suppress the duplicate or declare that it's not a duplicate. You can also submit a duplicate. It's very simple. You select on this button, sorry. I'll hand over to you, Ashta. You have the screenshots, and we can move on.
Sure. Thanks, Martina. I just want to add a couple of points here quickly as well. So
Do you want me
when,
to go in the dashboard, or?
yeah, could you just go to the publisher configuration tab again, where we see the different fields?
Sure.
Yeah,
Let me
just
select
because it's
Google.
another question we get. So this shows you, as Martina said, the fields in Yext and what's turned on between Yext and that specific publisher. If you see here, so business description is set to off. So if you were to add a description into the Yext knowledge graph, that is not going to sync to Google because you turned it off here. Okay. And also particularly, you'll see some things, like reservation link, menu link, etc. They aren't available for every single business category. If you're a retail customer, even if they're turned on, they're probably not going to work because it's not relevant to your industry. Okay. Could you just also go to the all listings tab as well, Martina, as well, quickly, because this is another question we're getting as well.
Yeah.
The status last changed on the far right-hand side is not related to when the data from the knowledge graph was last sent to the publisher. It's telling you when the status changed. So either it's changed to sync, it changed to opted out, it changed to not synced. That's what it's related to there. Okay. And then just one last thing, you can go back to the deck, Martina, but just one last thing just related to launching new locations. You can launch new stores or new restaurants, depending on your industry, up to 3 months before the official open date. So through my experience with working with different brands, we have had some delays sometimes when new locations are open. And of course, you want to get your new stores already promoted online and digitally available, and everyone can find them. Don't leave it to the last minute. You do have that 3-month period. Now you're probably wondering, well, okay, Ashley, but it's not open. How do I, prevent opening hours? You don't need to have opening hours in the knowledge graph. There is a field in the knowledge graph for open date or open month. Please use that, and that will show on Google, for example, as opening soon or opening in May or whenever it is. And then when you get nearer to the time, if you joined our knowledge graph webinar, you can add a scheduled update for the opening day to add the business hours. Okay. So publishers like Google always show business hours on a 7-day rolling period. So make sure that at least a week in advance of the opening, the business hours are ready to be displayed. Okay. That's just a tip as well. All right, thanks, Martina. So in terms of duplicates then, so one listing per location per publisher. Yeah, we don't want duplicates there with potential wrong information, basically, degrading or damaging your brand. Okay, so we just want to briefly touch on this. Okay, you're probably wondering, well, okay, where do these duplicates come from? So you may remember earlier I said that sites such as Google are continuously crawling the web. Okay, if Google finds on your website or potential store locator or something conflicting information or different information, particularly for name, address, phone number, it could believe that the business is separate from the other from the actual real one, and Google automatically creates listings. Sometimes it wants all businesses to be listed on the map. Okay, users can also submit recommendations if they're also under the impression that something is different or something is wrong. Okay, so it's super, super, super important to make sure that your business information is consistent on all of the digital sources that you're using. Okay, so we allow you to be able to monitor those duplicates in Yext, in the Yext tool, okay? But we also have a service that you can purchase called Managed Duplicate Suppression, where we basically run scans every few months and are able to suppress duplicates on your behalf, okay? So if you go to the next slide, please. So there's the duplicate suppression tab here. If you're brand new to Yext and listings, which I think all of you are, you'll need to click on start scanning for duplicates here. And once you've done that, the system will obviously load and start scanning. And if you go to the next slide, please, Martina, we have an example here of where or what the system will look like. Okay, so it will show you the publisher on the left-hand side. This example is TripAdvisor. It will show you your entity, and it will show you a potential duplicate listing for that entity. Now, it might be correct, it might not be correct. Yeah, we shouldn't be suppressing or trying to remove duplicates that are not true duplicates of our business or our brand. Okay, so you can click on obviously not a duplicate, like this is wrong. Okay, the system will simply look for name, address, phone number. Okay, it might not necessarily be 100% accurate in finding duplicates. It's just a tool for you to be able to monitor and look after. But if you wanted to, if you identified a true duplicate for one of your business locations, then you would click on that suppress button there. If you go to the next slide, please, Martina, I think we've got a slide of the process. Yeah, this is where you basically fill out the form where you would submit it. That would then go to us. So you basically select the entity, the publisher in question, the URL of that duplicate listing, and click on submit. And then we have a team here on the Yext side that will basically review that just to make sure that no wrong duplicates are being submitted. And then Martina did also briefly touch on this. Okay, so the listings verifier for certain publishers only, normally the big ones like Google, Facebook, Apple, etc. That dual sync connection you may remember I told you about, right? When we push the data out, we also get a response. Okay, so you're able to see that the data in Yext is actually accurate and on the listing as well. Now, you might be able to see on this screenshot potentially, I hope, but you may see in red on the right-hand side, data mismatch. And the postcode in Yext is 10001, but on the publisher, it's 10011, okay? So it also gives you a way to double check that the information you've actually added in the knowledge graph is accurate. Google particularly and Facebook and the big publishers, if they notice an address error, right, in Yext and we're sending that data to Yext, they won't necessarily accept it. Google, Facebook, etc., have their own address validation systems, okay, and ways to monitor addresses. So it's a good way for you to also check, oh, yeah, I've added the postcode wrong in Yext, I'll update that. Bam, you can click on force sync and then it will push the data out.
I think it's time for our last. Is it the last? No, it's we have two.
We have two. Okay, let's
Two
do
pieces.
these. So let's go here then. Listings verifier, knowledge check. What does the listings verifier tool do? Displays which fields in the knowledge graph sync to each publisher, compares data between Yext and publisher listings to find mismatches, or creates new listings automatically on the dual sync publishers. What do we think? What does the listings verifier tool do? Okay, thanks everyone. Let's end this now and share. So the correct answer is it compares data between Yext and publisher listings to find mismatches. Exactly here, the postcode example that I just shared. So what are then your action items? We want to make sure you go away today with some action items to ensure that your brand's listings are working, accurate, basically set up as much as possible. So we recommend to navigate in your Yext account to the listings tab. As Martina showed you earlier in the demo, you can filter to a specific publisher. We've just chosen Google, but you can obviously do more if you want to. We don't want to overload you with too much work. It's just a start. But for example, you could filter to Google and check not synced listings, and then look through the reasons why and the solutions and work through ensuring that you're synced on as many Google listings as possible. You can then use the listings verifier just to, as I showed you, compare data between Yext and a specific publisher of your choice, okay? For the ones where it's available to, it's not available for every single publisher, okay? You can then use the Force Sync button. That is on the right-hand side. There's 3 dots. If you click on that, it's a drop-down, Force Sync, to push the data back out for any inconsistencies you find. Or maybe you find, as in the example I gave, that there's a slight data issue in the knowledge graph, and you can update that, and then the data will be pushed out. And the last one is obviously you can also review the duplicates tab, see if there's any true duplicates out there of your business listings. Obviously, we don't want any duplicate listings. You should have one listing per location, per publisher, one that's accurate, up to date, that you're monitoring and feeding information via Yext, so you can identify any potential duplicates and suppress them where necessary. And I think we have one last question before we move on to Q&A, Martina, right? So let me just pull
Exactly.
this up. One last knowledge check for today. Which of the following statements about duplicate listings is true? Google automatically removes duplicates. Duplicates improve search visibility and overall digital presence, or Yext can help identify and suppress duplicates. What is the true statement here? Google automatically reviews duplicates. Duplicates improve search visibility and overall digital presence, or Yext can help and identify suppressing duplicates. And the answer is absolutely the last one. We can help to identify and suppress duplicates. So just as a recap, we are continuing our Platform Basics series in September. So next week on Wednesday, we will introduce you to the review solution. And then the next day on Thursday, we'll give you a beginner's guide to Yext Analytics. So would love you to join those sessions. Do you have the links on hand, Martina?
Yes, I'm providing both links in the chat. You should see. Can you confirm, Ash, that it's available for everyone?
I'm just changing it. Let me do it now. Now
Yeah,
everyone should be able to see them.
great. It's reviews and analytics. You have the links. It's on Wednesday, yeah, Wednesday and Thursday. So feel free to join both.
Of course, as usual, here's our help center. If you want to take a minute just to digest all the information we've given you today, of course, you can always go to our help center or reach out to our support team at help@yext.com for further questions. And
Yeah.
lastly, of course, thank you so much. Again, thank you, Martina, again to you for today's demo. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for today's session on listings. Okay, thank you for taking the time out of your day. Once again, please do fill out the survey. We're doing these webinars for you. What would you like to learn more about? What are we doing great? What can we do differently? We would really appreciate your feedback again on today's session.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much, everyone.
everyone.
And thank you, Ashley.
Of course. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day.
Bye.
Bye.